Maya Chen walked into her high school music class like she walked into every other class, quietly, slowly, hoping nobody would notice her. She picked the seat in the very back corner, near the window where she could look outside if things got boring. Maya was 17 years old and felt like the most ordinary person in the world. She was not tall or short, not pretty or ugly, not smart or dumb, just somewhere in the middle of everything. Her black hair was always pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore the same 3 t-shirts and 2 pairs of jeans every week. Nothing about Maya stood out. At Roosevelt High School, Maya was just another face in the crowd. She had been going there for 3 years, and most students still did not know her name. Teachers sometimes forgot she was in their classes. She never raised her hand to answer questions. She never caused trouble. She just sat there, took notes, and tried to become invisible. Maya lived with her parents and grandmother above their small Chinese restaurant called Golden Dragon. The restaurant was not fancy. It had 12 tables with red plastic chairs and old pictures of China on the walls. The food was good, but they were not rich. Maya's father cooked in the kitchen every day from morning until night. Her mother worked as a waitress and handled the money. Every day after school, Maya walked straight home to help in the restaurant. She washed dishes, cleaned tables, and took orders from customers. She did this every single day, even on weekends. While other kids, her age, went to movies or hung out at the mall, Maya was working. She never complained because she knew her family needed the help. Maya's parents came to America when she was 5 years old. They worked very hard to build their restaurant business. They wanted Maya to have a better life than they had. They always told her to study hard and go to college. But Maya did not know what she wanted to study. She did not know what she was good at. She felt like she had no special talents at all. In her music class, Maya watched the other students with wonder. Some of them had been playing piano since they were little kids. Others sang in the school choir or played in the band. They all seemed to know so much about music. They used words Maya did not understand. They talked about composers and music theory like it was easy. Maya knew almost nothing about music. Her family was too busy working to pay for music lessons. They did not have a piano or any instruments at home. Sometimes Maya heard music playing in the restaurant, but it was usually just background noise while she worked. The music teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, was a kind man in his 40s. He wore colorful shirts and always smiled at his students. He tried to make music fun and interesting for everyone. He never made students feel bad if they did not know something, but Maya was still scared to participate in class discussions. During music class, Maya mostly just listened. She watched Mr. Rodriguez play the piano at the front of the room. She watched other students try to play simple songs. She took notes about different types of music and famous composers, but she never thought she could actually make music herself. Maya had friends, but not many. There was Sarah, who sat next to her in math class. There was Kevin, who sometimes said hello in the hallways. But Maya never spent time with friends outside of school. She was always too busy working at the restaurant. Sometimes, Maya felt lonely. She watched other teenagers laughing together at lunch. She saw them planning parties and going on dates. Maya wondered what it would be like to have time for those things. But then she remembered her family needed her help, and she felt guilty for wanting something different. Maya's grandmother was the person she talked to most. Grandma Chen was 72 years old and very wise. She had lived through many difficult times in China before coming to America. She often told Maya stories about the old days, but Maya sometimes did not pay attention. She was usually too tired from school and work. Grandma Chen lived in a small apartment above the restaurant, just like Maya's family. Her apartment was full of old things from China. There were beautiful vases, old photographs, and furniture that looked very different from American furniture. In the corner of her living room, there was an old piano that nobody ever played. The piano was dark brown wood and very dusty. Some of the keys did not work properly anymore. Maya had asked about it once, but her grandmother just said it was very old and from a long time ago. Maya never thought much about it after that. Every morning, Maya woke up at 6:30 to get ready for school. She ate a quick breakfast with her family, usually rice and vegetables left over from the restaurant. Then she walked 20 minutes to school carrying her heavy backpack full of textbooks. Maya was not a bad student, but she was not a great student either. She got mostly B and C grades. She studied enough to pass her classes, but she never felt excited about learning. Nothing in school seemed to connect with her life. She could not see how algebra or history or science would help her future. The only class Maya found slightly interesting was English. She liked reading stories about other people's lives. Sometimes she wrote short essays about her own experiences. But even in English class, she never spoke up during discussions. She was afraid other students would think her ideas were stupid. Maya often felt like she was just going through the motions of being a teenager. Wake up, go to school, work at the restaurant, do homework, sleep. Every day was the same. She wondered if this was all there was to life. She wondered if she would always feel so ordinary and invisible. But Maya did not know that everything was about to change. She did not know that hidden inside her was something extraordinary. She had no idea that her ordinary life was about to become anything but ordinary. All it would take was one assignment in music class to unlock a secret that had been waiting 17 years to be discovered. Maya sat in that back corner of the music room, looking out the window at the gray November sky, completely unaware that her life was about to transform in ways she could never imagine. Mr. Rodriguez walked to the front of the music classroom with a big smile on his face. Maya could tell he was excited about something. She sank lower in her seat, hoping whatever he was planning would not involve her. "Class, I have something special to announce," Mr. Rodriguez said, clapping his hands together. "Our final project for this semester will be a solo performance. Each of you will perform one piece of music in front of the entire school assembly." Maya felt her stomach drop like she was on a roller coaster. Around her, other students started talking excitedly. She heard someone say, "I'm going to play Chopin." Another student said, "I've been working on a Mozart piece that would be perfect." Maya's hands started shaking. She looked around the room, at all the other students. They seemed happy about this assignment. Some were already discussing what songs they would choose. Maya felt like she was going to be sick. "The assembly will be on December 15th, Mr. Rodriguez continued. "That gives you 6 weeks to prepare. You can play piano, sing, or play any other instrument you're comfortable with. The performance should be between 3 and 5 minutes long." A student named Jessica raised her hand. "Mr. Rodriguez, what if we're not very good at playing instruments?" Mr. Rodriguez smiled kindly. "Don't worry about being perfect, Jessica. This is about expressing yourself through music and sharing that expression with others. I'm here to help anyone who needs extra guidance." Maya's mind was racing. She had never played piano in front of anyone. She had never sung in public. She could barely hum along to songs on the radio without feeling embarrassed. How could she possibly perform in front of the entire school? The entire school. Maya thought about this and felt even worse. That meant about 600 students in all. The teachers. Everyone would be watching her. Everyone would hear if she made mistakes. Everyone would know that Maya Chen had no musical talent at all. As other students continued chatting about their song choices, Maya tried to think of ways to get out of this assignment. Maybe she could get sick on the day of the assembly. Maybe she could transfer to a different school. Maybe she could drop out of music class entirely. But Maya knew none of these things would really work. She needed this music class credit to graduate. Her parents would be very upset if she failed a class or tried to drop out. She was trapped. When the bell rang, Maya gathered her books slowly. She hoped she could leave the classroom without Mr. Rodriguez noticing her. But as she stood up to go, she heard his voice. "Maya, could you stay for a minute, please?" Maya's heart started beating fast. She walked slowly to Mr. Rodriguez's desk, while the other students left for their next classes. She stared at the floor, not wanting to make eye contact. "Maya, I noticed you looked worried during my announcement," Mr. Rodriguez said gently. "Are you feeling okay about the performance assignment?" Maya's voice came out as barely a whisper. "I don't really know how to play anything." "What do you mean?" Mr. Rodriguez asked, sitting down so he would be at the same height as Maya. "Have you taken any music lessons before?" Maya shook her head. "My family owns a restaurant. We're always working. There was never time for music lessons, and we don't have a piano at home or anything." Mr. Rodriguez nodded with understanding. "I see. Well, Maya, let me ask you this. Do you enjoy listening to music? Sometimes, Maya said. When it's playing in the restaurant, I guess. That's a start, Mr. Rodriguez said with encouragement. You know what? Let me find something that might work for you. Mr. Rodriguez went to a filing cabinet and pulled out a folder full of sheet music. He looked through several pages before pulling out one piece of paper. Here, he said, handing Maya the paper. This is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I know it might seem childish, but it's actually a great piece to start with. The melody is simple, and most people already know how it sounds. Maya looked at the sheet music. It had notes drawn on lines, but she could not read music. The paper might as well have been written in a foreign language. I don't know how to read music, Maya admitted, feeling embarrassed. That's okay, Mr. Rodriguez said. I can teach you the basic notes you need. It's really just 5 different keys on the piano. You can learn it. Maya wanted to say that she could not learn it. She wanted to tell Mr. Rodriguez that she was not musical like the other students. But she could see that he was trying to help her, and she did not want to seem ungrateful. Just focus on playing it cleanly, Mr. Rodriguez said. You don't need to make it complicated or fancy. Just play the simple melody. That's all anyone expects. The words, "That's all anyone expects," made Maya feel a little better and a little worse at the same time. Better because it meant the pressure was not as high as she thought. Worse because it reminded her that everyone already expected very little from her. Can you stay after school today? Mr. Rodriguez asked. I can show you the basic finger positions and help you get started. Maya thought about her work schedule at the restaurant. Her parents expected her to come straight home after school to help with the dinner rush, but this seemed important. I can stay for maybe 30 minutes, Maya said quietly. Perfect, Mr. Rodriguez said. That's enough time to get you started. Maya spent the rest of the school day thinking about her assignment. In history class, she stared at the sheet music for Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star instead of listening to the teacher talk about World War II. In math class, she tried to count the notes on the page instead of solving algebra problems. By the time her last class ended, Maya was very nervous about her piano lesson with Mr. Rodriguez. She had never had any kind of music lesson before. She was afraid she would be terrible at it and embarrass herself even more. Maya walked back to the music room and found Mr. Rodriguez waiting by the piano. The room was quiet and empty now. All the other students had gone home. Ready to get started? Mr. Rodriguez asked cheerfully. Maya nodded even though she did not feel ready at all. Mr. Rodriguez showed her how to sit at the piano bench with her back straight. He showed her how to curve her fingers and place them on the keys. He taught her which keys were which notes. Middle C, D, E, F, G. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star used only these 5 notes. Mr. Rodriguez played it once very slowly so Maya could hear how it was supposed to sound. Then he helped her place her right hand on the correct starting position. Now just press middle C with your thumb, he said. Maya pressed the key. It made a clear, pleasant sound. She was surprised that she had actually made music, even if it was just one note. Good, Mr. Rodriguez said. Now press D with your second finger. Maya pressed the next key, then E, then back to D, then back to C. Very slowly, she was playing the beginning of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. It took the full 30 minutes, but by the end of the lesson, Maya could play the first line of the song. Her fingers moved slowly and carefully. She made several mistakes, but she was actually playing piano. You did great, Maya, Mr. Rodriguez said as she packed up her things. Practice this first line at home if you can. If you don't have a piano, you can even practice the finger movements on a table. Maya thanked Mr. Rodriguez and hurried to the restaurant. She was 15 minutes late and her mother looked worried when she walked in. Where were you? Her mother asked in Chinese. Maya explained about the music assignment and her piano lesson. Her parents listened with surprise. They had never thought about Maya learning music before. That sounds very nice, her father said. But don't let it interfere with your work here. That night, after the restaurant closed and she finished her homework, Maya sat at the kitchen table. She placed her hands flat on the wooden surface and tried to remember what Mr. Rodriguez had taught her. She moved her fingers like she was pressing piano keys, humming "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" very quietly. Maya had no idea that this simple children's song would change her life forever. That evening, Maya could not stop thinking about her piano lesson with Mr. Rodriguez. After she finished washing dishes at the restaurant, she kept humming "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" under her breath. Her fingers moved on the dish towels, like they were piano keys. Maya's grandmother noticed her strange behavior during dinner. Grandma Chen watched as Maya tapped her fingers on the table in a pattern while they ate their rice and vegetables. "Maya, what are you doing with your hands?" Grandma Chen asked in Chinese. Maya explained about her school assignment and how she had to perform in front of everyone. She told her grandmother about learning to play piano and how scary it felt. "Piano?" Grandma Chen's eyes got wide with surprise. "You are learning to play piano?" "Just a simple song," Maya said. "Nothing special." Grandma Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she looked at Maya with a strange expression. "Come with me after dinner. I want to show you something." After they cleaned up the dishes, Grandma Chen led Maya upstairs to her small apartment. Maya had been in her grandmother's apartment many times, but tonight something felt different. Grandma Chen walked slowly to the corner where the old piano sat covered in dust. "This piano has been waiting for someone to play it," Grandma Chen said softly. Maya looked at the old instrument. It was bigger than the piano at school. The wood was dark and scratched in some places. Some of the keys looked yellow with age. "Does it still work?" Maya asked. "Only one way to find out," Grandma Chen said. She lifted the heavy lid that covered the keys. Dust floated in the air. The black and white keys looked sad and forgotten. Maya sat on the old wooden bench in front of the piano. It creaked under her weight. She placed her hands on the keys the way Mr. Rodriguez had taught her. Then she pressed middle C with her thumb. The sound that came from the old piano was deep and rich. It filled the small apartment with music. Maya smiled and played the next note. D, then E, then back to D and C. Slowly, carefully, Maya played the first line of "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." The piano sounded much better than the one at school, even though it was so old. But then something strange happened. As Maya finished the simple melody, her fingers did not want to stop. Without thinking about it, she pressed a few more keys. The notes she played were not part of the song Mr. Rodriguez had taught her. They were lower notes that made the melody sound richer and more interesting. Maya did not know why she played these extra notes. She had never learned them. She just felt like they belonged with the simple tune. Her left hand moved to keys she had never touched before, adding soft harmony under the main melody. "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" was becoming something different, something more beautiful than Maya had ever heard before. The simple children's song was growing into something that sounded like real music. Maya played the melody again, but this time both her hands were moving. Her right hand played the tune while her left hand found notes that made everything sound fuller and more complete. She did not know how she knew which keys to press. She just followed what sounded right to her ears. The music filled the apartment like warm light. Maya forgot she was supposed to be scared of performing. She forgot she was supposed to be no good at music. She just played, and the piano responded like it had been waiting for her touch. When Maya finally stopped playing, she realized her grandmother was crying. Tears were running down Grandma Chen's wrinkled cheeks as she stared at Maya with amazement. "Grandma, what's wrong?" Maya asked, turning around on the piano bench. Grandma Chen wiped her eyes with a tissue. "Maya, you play exactly like your great-grandfather." "My great-grandfather?" Maya had heard her grandmother mention him before, but she did not know much about him. "Yes, child, your great-grandfather was a very famous piano player in China. His name was Chen Wei-ming, and he could make any piano sing with joy." Maya stared at her grandmother. This was the first time she had heard this story. "He played in concert halls all over China," Grandma Chen continued. "People would travel for many hours just to hear him play. He could take any simple song and make it sound like it came from heaven itself." Maya looked back at the old piano. "This was his piano?" "Yes," Grandma Chen said, sitting down in her favorite chair next to the piano. "When our family had to leave China, This was the only thing he insisted on bringing with him. He said a musician without his instrument is like a bird without wings. What happened to him? Maya asked. Grandma Chen's face became sad. Life in America was very hard for him. He could not find work as a musician here. Nobody wanted to hear Chinese piano music in those days. He had to work in factories and restaurants to feed his family. He stopped playing piano because it made him too sad to remember what he had lost. Maya felt a heavy feeling in her chest. She thought about her great-grandfather giving up music to work in restaurants just like her family did now. He made me promise to keep the piano safe, Grandma Chen said. He said someday someone in the family would need it again. I think that someone is you, Maya. Maya looked at her hands on the piano keys. But I don't know how to play like that. What I just did, I don't understand how it happened. Music is in your blood, child, Grandma Chen said. Your great-grandfather used to say that real musicians don't just learn music with their minds. They feel it with their hearts and souls. What you did tonight, that was not something you learned. That was something you remembered. Maya did not understand what her grandmother meant about remembering music, but she could not stop thinking about her great-grandfather. She tried to imagine him sitting at this same piano, playing for audiences who loved his music. Can I play it again? Maya asked. Of course, Grandma Chen said with a warm smile. Play as much as you want. The piano has been silent too long. Maya turned back to the keys and began, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star again. This time, even more notes seemed to flow from her fingers. Her hands moved across the keys like they had done this 1,000 times before. The simple melody became something rich and complex and beautiful. She played the song 5 more times, and each time it sounded different. Each time, new harmonies and melodies seemed to appear in her mind and flow through her fingers to the keys. It was like the piano was teaching her secrets that she had always known but had forgotten. Maya lost track of time. When she finally stopped playing, she realized it was almost midnight. Her parents would be wondering where she was. Grandma, can I come back tomorrow and play more? Maya asked as she stood up from the piano bench. Maya, Grandma Chen said, taking her granddaughter's hands in her own. This piano is part of your family. It belongs to you as much as it belongs to me. You can play it whenever you want. Maya hugged her grandmother tightly. For the first time in her life, she felt like she had found something that was truly hers. Something special that connected her to her family's history. As Maya walked back downstairs to her own apartment, she could still feel the music in her fingers. She could still hear the beautiful sounds the old piano had made. She thought about her great-grandfather and wondered if he would be proud of her. Maya did not know it yet, but this night had changed everything. The ordinary girl who had walked into her grandmother's apartment was not the same person who walked out. Maya had discovered something magical inside herself, and there was no going back to being invisible anymore. The old piano had been waiting 70 years for Maya to find it, and Maya had been waiting 17 years to find herself. The next day at school, Maya could barely pay attention to her classes. All she could think about was the piano in her grandmother's apartment. During lunch, instead of sitting quietly by herself like usual, Maya found herself humming softly and tapping rhythms on her desk. Her friend Sarah noticed the change. Maya, you seem different today, Sarah said as they walked to their lockers. You look happy about something. Maya wanted to tell Sarah about discovering the piano, but she was not sure how to explain what had happened. How could she describe the feeling of music flowing through her fingers like water? How could she explain that she suddenly felt connected to a great-grandfather she had never met? I guess I'm just excited about something, Maya said simply. That afternoon, Maya could hardly wait for school to end. She helped at the restaurant for a few hours, washing dishes and serving customers. But her mind kept drifting to the music she had played the night before. Her fingers moved in patterns on the plates she was washing, playing silent melodies only she could hear. As soon as the restaurant closed, Maya hurried upstairs to her grandmother's apartment. Grandma Chen was waiting for her with a cup of tea and a warm smile. I thought you might want to play again tonight, Grandma Chen said. Maya sat at the piano bench and lifted the lid covering the keys. The moment her fingers touched the keys, She felt that same magical connection she had experienced the night before. She started with, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star," but this time her hands seemed to know even more about what to do. As she played, Maya began to understand something amazing. The music was not just random notes. Her hands were telling a story through the piano. The simple melody was like a foundation, and all the other notes she added were like building a beautiful house on top of that foundation. "Grandma," Maya said, pausing in her playing, "can you tell me more about my great-grandfather? What kind of music did he play?" Grandma Chen's eyes lit up. She walked to an old wooden chest in the corner of the room and pulled out a cardboard box Maya had never seen before. Inside the box were old photographs, yellowed newspaper clippings, and what looked like concert programs. "Come, sit with me," Grandma Chen said, patting the couch next to her. "Let me show you who Chen Wei-ming really was." Maya sat down and looked at the old photographs. In one black and white picture, she saw a young man in a fancy suit sitting at a grand piano. He had the same shaped eyes as Maya and the same serious expression she sometimes saw in the mirror. "That's him at age 25, Grandma Chen said. "He was performing at the Shanghai Concert Hall. This was 1952, and he was already famous throughout China." Maya studied the photograph closely. Her great-grandfather looked confident and proud as he sat at the beautiful piano. She could almost imagine the music he must have played for all those people. Grandma Chen showed her more photographs. There was one of Chen Wei-ming with other musicians, all dressed in formal clothes. Another showed him shaking hands with important-looking people. There were newspaper articles written in Chinese characters that Maya could not read. He played all kinds of music, Grandma Chen explained. Classical music from Europe, traditional Chinese folk songs, and his own compositions, but his special gift was taking simple melodies and making them extraordinary, just like what you did last night. Maya picked up one of the concert programs. Even though she could not read the Chinese writing, she could see her great-grandfather's name printed in bold letters at the top. She wondered what it felt like to have hundreds of people come to hear you play music. "What happened when he came to America?" Maya asked. Grandma Chen's expression became sad again. It was 1958, and life was becoming dangerous for artists in China. We had to leave everything behind and start over. Your great-grandfather brought this piano, but finding work as a musician was impossible. She showed Maya a photograph of a much older Chen Wei-ming, working in what looked like a factory. He was wearing work clothes instead of a fancy suit, and his hands looked rough and dirty. "He worked in a textile factory for 20 years, Grandma Chen said. At night he would come home so tired that his fingers could barely move. The piano sat silent for months at a time. He said it was too painful to play music when he could not share it with anyone who understood." Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. She thought about her great-grandfather giving up his dreams to provide for his family. She thought about how lonely he must have felt, having all that music trapped inside him with no way to let it out. "Did he ever play again?" Maya asked. "Sometimes," Grandma Chen said. "When your grandmother was little, he would play lullabies for her. When your father was young, great-grandfather would play Chinese folk songs and tell stories about the old country. But he never performed in public again. He said America was not ready for his kind of music." Maya looked back at the piano. She wondered if her great-grandfather would be surprised to know that his piano was making music again after all these years. "Grandma, how do you think I can play like this? I never learned any of these things." Grandma Chen smiled and touched Maya's face gently. "In China, we believe that talents and memories can pass from one generation to the next through the blood. Your great-grandfather's gift for music is living inside you. When you touch these piano keys, you are connecting with everything he knew and felt about music." Maya was not sure if she believed in such things, but she could not deny what was happening when she played. Somehow, her fingers knew things her brain had never learned. Somehow, the music felt familiar even though she was hearing it for the first time. "Can I try playing some of his music?" Maya asked. Grandma Chen looked through the box and pulled out several sheets of handwritten music. The paper was old and yellow, but Maya could see notes written carefully in black ink. "These are songs he wrote himself," Grandma Chen said. I saved them all these years, hoping someday they would be played again. Maya took the sheets of music, back to the piano. She could not read the complex notation, but she placed the papers on the music stand anyway. Then she put her hands on the keys and closed her eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Maya began to play. She was not reading the notes on the paper. Instead, she was letting her fingers explore the keys, searching for melodies that felt right. As she played, the music that came from the piano sounded old and beautiful and sad. Maya found herself playing a melody that seemed to tell the story of leaving home and missing the place you came from. The music spoke of longing and hope and the courage it takes to start over in a new place. Without knowing how, Maya was playing her great-grandfather's memories and emotions. When she finished, both Maya and her grandmother were crying. That was his song called Leaving Home, Grandma Chen whispered. He wrote it during his first year in America. You played it exactly the way he used to play it. Maya stared at her hands in amazement. How was this possible? How could she play music she had never heard before? How could her fingers know melodies that existed only in her great-grandfather's mind? Maya, Grandma Chen said, your great-grandfather always said that real music is not about playing the right notes. It is about sharing your soul with the world. Tonight you shared not just your soul but his soul too. Maya spent the next 2 hours playing different pieces from her great-grandfather's collection. Some were happy songs that made her think of celebrations and dancing. Others were quiet and peaceful, like prayers or meditation. Each piece seemed to unlock more memories and abilities inside her. By the time Maya went to bed that night, she knew that everything about her life had changed. She was no longer just an ordinary girl with no special talents. She was the keeper of her family's musical legacy. She was the granddaughter of Chen Wei-ming, and his gift was living inside her hands and heart. But Maya also knew that she faced a difficult choice. She could play it safe and perform the simple version of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star that Mr. Rodriguez expected. Or she could trust in this new gift and share something truly extraordinary with her school. The scared, ordinary Maya wanted to stay invisible and safe. But the new Maya, the one connected to her great-grandfather's spirit, wanted to honor his memory and let his music live again. Maya fell asleep that night with melodies dancing in her dreams and her great-grandfather's music still echoing in her heart. The weeks leading up to the school assembly passed like a dream for Maya. Every evening after working at the restaurant, she climbed the stairs to her grandmother's apartment and lost herself in music. The old piano became her teacher, her friend, and her window into a family history she had never known existed. Maya practiced Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star hundreds of times, but each time it became something different. Sometimes it sounded like a lullaby that might put babies to sleep. Other times it became a celebration song that made her want to dance. Some evenings when Maya was feeling sad or worried, the simple melody turned into something deep and emotional that seemed to express feelings she could not put into words. At school, Maya began to change in ways her classmates noticed. She sat up straighter in her classes. She made eye contact when teachers spoke to her. Sometimes she even raised her hand to answer questions. Sarah, her friend from math class, commented that Maya seemed more confident about something. But Maya kept her musical discovery secret. She was not ready to explain to her classmates about her great-grandfather or the magic she felt when she played his piano. She was afraid they might not believe her, or worse, they might think she was making up stories to sound more interesting than she really was. Mr. Rodriguez checked on Maya's progress every few days during music class. Maya would play the basics version of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star for him, and he always smiled and told her she was doing well. Remember, Maya, he said one afternoon after she played for him, just focus on playing it cleanly and clearly. Don't worry about making it fancy. Simple can be beautiful too. Maya nodded and agreed with him, but inside she was struggling with a big decision. She had learned to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star in two completely different ways. There was the safe, simple version that Mr. Rodriguez expected, and there was the magical, complex version that seemed to flow from her great-grandfather's spirit through her fingers. Every night, Maya went back and forth between the two versions. The Simple version felt safe and predictable. She knew she could play it without making major mistakes. No one would be surprised or confused by it. She would fulfill her assignment, get a good grade, and return to being invisible Maya. But the complex version felt alive and real. When she played it, Maya felt connected to something bigger than herself. She felt proud of her family's history and excited about her own abilities. The music told a story and shared emotions in ways that words never could. Maya's grandmother watched. Her practiced both versions and understood the choice her granddaughter was facing. "You are afraid?" Grandma Chen said one evening as Maya finished playing the simple version for the 10th time in a row. "I'm terrified," Maya admitted. "What if I play the complex version and everyone thinks I'm showing off? What if they don't understand it? What if I make mistakes because it's too hard for me?" Grandma Chen sat down next to Maya on the piano bench. "Let me tell you something your great-grandfather once said. He told me that music is like a bridge between hearts. When you play simple music, you build a small bridge that connects to a few people. When you play with your whole soul, you build a bridge that can reach anyone who is ready to listen." Maya looked at her hands on the piano keys. "But what if no one is ready to listen to my kind of music?" "Then you will still have built the bridge," Grandma Chen said, "and you will know that you honored the gift that has been passed down to you." Maya thought about this for a long time. She understood what her grandmother meant, but fear was still stronger than courage in her heart. The night before the assembly, Maya could barely eat dinner. Her stomach felt twisted with nervousness. She had been practicing for 6 weeks, but she still had not decided which version of the song she would play. After the restaurant closed, Maya's parents wished her good luck with her performance. They had never heard her play piano, but they were proud that she was participating in a school event. Maya's father gave her a hug and said, "Just do your best, and we will be proud of you no matter what." Maya climbed the stairs to her grandmother's apartment one last time before the big day. The piano sat in the corner waiting patiently like it had for so many years. "Tonight I need you to help me decide," Maya said to the piano, as if it were a person who could give her advice. Maya sat on the bench and played the simple version of "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" first. Her fingers moved carefully and precisely across the keys. Every note was correct. The melody was clear and pleasant. It was exactly what Mr. Rodriguez had asked for, and exactly what everyone would expect from quiet Maya Chen. When she finished, Maya sat in silence for a moment. The music had been nice, but it had not made her feel anything special. It was just notes and rhythm, like following a recipe to bake a cake. Then Maya closed her eyes and let her hands find the keys for the complex version. As soon as she began to play, the apartment filled with something magical. The simple children's melody became the foundation for a musical story that spoke of courage, family, tradition, and dreams. Maya's left hand played deep, rich harmonies while her right hand danced across the higher keys with melodies that seemed to float like birds. The music grew and changed and evolved, taking the listener on a journey from childhood innocence to adult understanding. As she played, Maya thought about her great-grandfather sitting at this same piano 70 years ago, playing for audiences who appreciated his gift. She thought about all the music he had been forced to keep inside himself when he could no longer perform. She thought about the old photographs of him in his concert clothes, looking proud and confident and alive. Maya realized that if she played the simple version tomorrow, she would be choosing safety over truth. She would be hiding the real Maya, to avoid the risk of being judged or misunderstood. But if she played the complex version, she would be sharing something authentic and beautiful, even if it scared her. She would be honoring her great-grandfather's memory and trusting that her gift was worth sharing with the world. When Maya finished playing, she looked at her grandmother, who had been listening quietly from her chair. "I think I know what I have to do," Maya said. "What is that, dear?" Grandma Chen asked. "I have to play the real version, the version that comes from my heart and from great-grandfather's spirit. I can't hide who I really am just because I'm scared." Grandma Chen smiled with tears in her eyes. "Your great-grandfather would be so proud of you, Maya. You have found not just his musical gift but his courage too." Maya practiced the complex version one more time, letting her fingers memorize every harmony and every delicate melody line. She knew that tomorrow would be the most frightening and most important day of her life so far. As she got ready for bed that night, Maya looked at herself in the mirror. The face looking back at her was the same face she had seen every day for 17 years, but something in her eyes was different. There was a spark there that had not existed before. There was confidence and purpose, and the knowledge that she carried something beautiful inside herself. Maya fell asleep that night with music playing in her dreams. In her dreams, she saw her great-grandfather sitting in the audience tomorrow, smiling and nodding with approval as she shared his gift with a new generation. Tomorrow, Maya would find out if she had the courage to let the world see who she really was. Tomorrow, she would discover whether the bridge her music could build was strong enough to reach the hearts of 600 strangers. Tomorrow, the invisible girl would either disappear forever or finally, truly, be seen. Maya woke up on the morning of the assembly with her heart already racing. She had barely slept, and when she did sleep, her dreams were filled with images of hundreds of people staring at her while she sat frozen at a piano, unable to remember how to play a single note. At breakfast, Maya could hardly eat her rice and eggs. Her stomach felt like it was full of butterflies doing somersaults. Her parents noticed how nervous she looked and tried to encourage her. "Maya, it's just a school assembly," her mother said gently. "Everyone will clap for you no matter what you play." Maya nodded, but she knew it was not that simple. Today was not just about playing a song for her classmates. Today was about deciding who she really was and having the courage to show that person to the world. At school, Maya moved through her morning classes like she was in a fog. In English class, she stared at her textbook without reading the words. In history class, she drew piano keys in the margins of her notebook, instead of taking notes about the Civil War. In math class, she solved algebra problems, but her mind kept playing musical melodies instead of focusing on numbers. During lunch, Maya sat by herself in the cafeteria, picking at her sandwich but not really eating it. She watched other students laughing and talking about normal teenage things like homework and weekend plans and who was dating who. Maya felt like she was living in a completely different world from all of them. Sarah, her friend from math class, came over and sat down next to Maya. "You look terrible," Sarah said with concern. "Are you sick?" "I have to perform in the assembly today," Maya said quietly. "Oh yeah, Mr. Rodriguez's music class assignment," Sarah said. "What are you playing?" Maya hesitated. She had never told anyone at school about her musical discovery or her great-grandfather or the magical things that happened when she played his piano. "Just a simple song," Maya said finally. "I'm sure you'll do fine," Sarah said. "I'll be cheering for you." After lunch, Maya went to the music room to practice one last time before the assembly. Mr. Rodriguez was there, helping other students get ready for their performances. "Maya, how are you feeling?" he asked when he saw her. "Nervous," Maya said. "Honestly? That's completely normal," Mr. Rodriguez said. "Even professional musicians get nervous before performances. The nervousness means you care about doing well." Maya sat down at the piano and played through the simple version of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star one more time. Her fingers moved automatically across the keys. The melody was clean and clear, just like Mr. Rodriguez had taught her. "Perfect," Mr. Rodriguez said with a smile. "You're ready." But as Maya looked at the piano keys, she felt a strange sadness. The simple version felt like wearing clothes that did not fit properly. It was not wrong, but it was not really her either. At 2 o'clock, students and teachers began filing into the school auditorium for the assembly. Maya sat backstage with the other music students who would be performing. Her hands were shaking, and her mouth felt dry. She watched through a crack in the stage curtain as the auditorium filled with people. 600 students and teachers took their seats, talking and laughing, and completely unaware that Maya Chen was about to have the most important moment of her life so far. Maya saw her parents slip into seats near the back of the auditorium. Her father had left the restaurant during the busy lunch rush to be there. Her mother wore her nicest dress and looked proud and nervous at the same time. Maya also spotted her grandmother sitting in the middle section, her hands folded in her lap and her eyes focused on the stage. "Students performing in today's assembly, please line up in order," announced Mrs. Patterson, the assistant principal. Maya found her place in line. She would be the 7th student to perform, right in the middle of the program. Her hands were trembling so badly she had to clasp them together to make them stop. The assembly began with Principal Johnson making announcements about upcoming school events. Then Mr. Rodriguez took the microphone to introduce the musical performances. "Today, our music students will share the hard work they've been doing this semester," Mr. Rodriguez said to the audience. "Each student has chosen a piece that represents their musical journey. Please give them your attention and your encouragement." The first student, a girl named Jennifer, played a complicated piece by Mozart on the piano. She played it beautifully, and the audience clapped enthusiastically. Maya felt even more nervous watching how skilled Jennifer was. The second student sang a song from a Broadway musical. The third student played violin. The fourth played a jazz piece on the saxophone. Each performance was impressive and polished. Maya began to feel like her simple children's song would sound foolish after all these sophisticated pieces. When the sixth student finished playing, Maya's name was called. "Next we have Maya Chen performing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," Mr. Rodriguez announced. Maya heard a few students in the audience giggle at the title of her song. Someone whispered loud enough for her to hear, "Isn't that a baby song?" Maya's cheeks burned with embarrassment as she walked across the stage to the piano. The spotlight was so bright she could barely see the audience, but she could feel 600 pairs of eyes watching her every move. Maya sat down on the piano bench and adjusted it to the right height. She placed her hands on the keys in the position Mr. Rodriguez had taught her. The auditorium was completely quiet, waiting for her to begin. For a moment, Maya's mind went completely blank. She could not remember how to play anything at all. Her hands felt frozen on the keys. She could hear her heart beating so loudly she was sure everyone in the auditorium could hear it too. Then, from somewhere in the audience, Maya heard her grandmother's voice whisper in Chinese, "Be brave, little one." Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. In that moment, she made her choice. She could play it safe and play the simple version that everyone expected. Or she could trust in the gift that had been passed down to her and share something real and beautiful and true. Maya opened her eyes and looked out at the audience. She could not see individual faces because of the bright lights, but she could feel the presence of all those people waiting to hear what she had to offer. Maya placed her fingers on the keys and began to play. But instead of the simple, safe version she had planned, she began to play from her heart. She began to play the version that came from her great-grandfather's spirit and her own soul. The first notes of "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" rang out clearly in the quiet auditorium. But as Maya continued to play, something extraordinary began to happen. The simple melody became the foundation for something much more complex and beautiful. Maya's left hand found deep, rich chords that made the familiar tune sound completely new. Her right hand danced across the higher keys, adding melodies and variations that turned the children's song into a musical story. As Maya played, she forgot about being nervous. She forgot about the 600 people watching her. She forgot about everything except the music flowing through her fingers and the feeling of her great-grandfather's spirit guiding her hands. The music that filled the auditorium was like nothing anyone there had ever heard before. It was classical and modern at the same time. It was simple and complex. It was the story of a family's journey from one country to another, the story of dreams deferred and gifts passed down through generations. Maya played for 4 minutes, but it felt like both an instant and an eternity. When she finally played, the last note, the auditorium was completely silent. Maya lifted her hands from the keys and looked out at the audience. For a moment, no one moved. No one made a sound. Maya wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. Then, somewhere in the middle of the auditorium, someone began to clap. Then someone else joined in, then more people. Within seconds, the entire auditorium erupted in applause. But this was not the polite, brief applause the other students had received. This was something different. People were standing up. They were clapping with genuine enthusiasm and emotion. Maya could see teachers wiping tears from their eyes. She could see students who had never noticed her before looking at her with amazement and respect. The applause continued for what felt like forever. Maya stood up from the piano bench and gave a small bow, like she had seen other performers do. As she walked off the stage, her legs felt shaky, but her heart felt strong and proud. Maya Chen, the invisible girl, had finally been seen. And what people saw was something beautiful and extraordinary that had been waiting 17 years to be shared with the world. The moment Maya walked off the stage, everything in her world changed forever. The thunderous applause that had filled the auditorium was still ringing in her ears, but even more powerful was the feeling inside her heart. For the first time in her 17 years of life, Maya felt truly seen and truly proud of who she was. As she made her way backstage, Maya was surrounded by other music students who had been waiting for their turn to perform. But instead of focusing on their own nervous preparation, they all wanted to talk to her. "Maya, that was incredible," said Jennifer, the girl who had played Mozart so beautifully. "I had no idea you could play like that." "Where did you learn to play with such emotion?" asked David, a senior who was known as one of the best musicians in the school. Maya smiled but felt overwhelmed by all the attention. She had spent so many years being invisible that suddenly having people notice her and praise her felt strange and wonderful at the same time. Mr. Rodriguez appeared at her side, with tears in his eyes and a huge smile on his face. "Maya," he said, putting his hand on her shoulder, "in 20 years of teaching music, I have never heard a student play with such depth and feeling. What you just did up there was not just a performance. It was art." Maya felt her cheeks turn red with embarrassment and pride. "I hope it was okay that I changed the song a little bit." Mr. Rodriguez laughed with joy. "Changed it a little bit? Maya, you transformed it completely. You took a simple children's melody and turned it into something that moved every person in that auditorium. That is the mark of a true musician." As the assembly continued with the remaining student performances, Maya found it hard to concentrate on anything except the amazing feeling of what she had just accomplished. She kept replaying the moment in her mind when she had made the choice to play from her heart instead of playing it safe. When the assembly ended and students began filing out of the auditorium, Maya was not prepared for what happened next. Instead of rushing past her like they usually did, students kept stopping to talk to her. "Maya, I never knew you played piano," said Jessica, a popular girl from her English class. "That was so beautiful it made me cry." "You should audition for the talent show next semester," suggested Marcus, a boy from her history class who had never spoken to her before. Even some teachers stopped to congratulate Maya as they left the auditorium. Mrs. Patterson, the assistant principal, shook Maya's hand and said, "That was one of the most moving performances I've ever heard from a student. You have a remarkable gift." But the most important moment came when Maya saw her family waiting for her near the exit of the auditorium. Her parents looked amazed and proud and a little bit confused all at the same time. "Maya," her father said in Chinese, "we had no idea you could play like that. When did you learn to make such beautiful music?" Maya looked at her grandmother, who was standing behind her parents with a knowing smile on her face. Grandma Chen nodded slightly, giving Maya permission to share their secret. "I've been practicing on great-grandfather's piano," Maya said quietly. "Grandma has been helping me learn about our family's musical history." Maya's parents turned to look at Grandma Chen with surprise. "You knew about this?" Maya's mother asked her own mother. "I knew Maya had inherited her great-grandfather's gift," Grandma Chen said with pride. "I have been watching her discover what was always inside her heart." Maya's father put his arm around Maya's shoulders. "I am so proud of you," he said. "Your great-grandfather would have been proud too." As they walked home together, Maya felt like she was floating on air. The fear and nervousness that had consumed her all morning had been replaced by joy and confidence and a sense of belonging that she had never felt before. But Maya's day was far from over. When they arrived at the restaurant, Maya found that word of her performance had already spread throughout their small neighborhood. Mrs. Kim from the grocery store next door came over to congratulate Maya. Mr. Patel from the Indian restaurant across the street brought his whole family to shake Maya's hand. "We heard you played piano like an angel today," Mrs. Kim said with a big smile. Our daughter goes to your school and she called to tell us about the amazing music you played." As the evening went on, more and more people stopped by the restaurant to talk to Maya about her performance. Some were customers who had never paid much attention to the quiet girl who served their food. Others were neighbors who had known Maya for years but had never realized she had such talent. Maya found herself telling the story of discovering her great-grandfather's piano over and over again. Each time she told it, the story felt more real and more amazing. She was beginning to understand that what had happened to her was not just a good performance at a school assembly. It was the discovery of a part of herself that would change everything about her future. That evening, after the restaurant closed, Maya sat with her family around the dining table. Her parents wanted to hear more about her musical discovery and her great-grandfather's history. "Why didn't you ever tell us about Father's piano talent?" Maya's mother asked Grandma Chen. "It was too painful for many years," Grandma Chen explained. "When we came to America, your grandfather had to give up his music to survive. It broke his heart and it broke mine to watch him suffer. I thought it would be better to let those memories stay in the past. But when I saw Maya's gift awakening, I knew it was time to honor your grandfather's legacy again," Grandma Chen continued. "Maya has brought his music back to life." Maya's father looked thoughtful. "Maybe it's time for our family to make room for music again. Maya, if you want to take proper piano lessons or participate in more musical activities at school, we will find a way to support you." Maya felt tears of happiness in her eyes. For so many years, her family's focus had been on survival and hard work. The idea that they would now make sacrifices to support her musical education felt like a dream coming true. "There's something else," Maya said quietly. "Mr. Rodriguez talked to me after the assembly today. He said there are music scholarships available for students with talent. He thinks I might be able to get help paying for college if I continue developing my musical abilities." Maya's parents looked at each other with amazement. They had always hoped Maya could go to college, but they worried about how they would afford it. The possibility that Maya's musical gift could open doors to higher education was more than they had ever dared to hope for. "Maya," her mother said with tears in her eyes, "today you have not just made us proud. You have given our whole family hope for the future." As Maya got ready for bed that night, she looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. The face looking back at her was the same face she had seen that morning, but everything about her felt different. She stood straighter. She smiled more easily. Her eyes had a confidence and sparkle that had never been there before. Maya realized that her performance that day had been about much more than playing piano well. It had been about finding the courage to be authentic, to share her true self with the world, and to trust that who she really was would be enough. The invisible girl was gone forever. In her place stood Maya Chen, musician, artist, and keeper of her family's musical legacy. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities, but Maya was no longer afraid of being seen. She had discovered that the most powerful music comes not from playing the notes perfectly, but from playing them with truth, courage, and love. And Maya Chen was ready to spend the rest of her life making that kind of music. 3 months after the assembly that changed her life, Maya Chen sat in the same music classroom where her journey had begun. But everything was different now. Instead of hiding in the back corner, she sat in the front row, actively participating in discussions about music theory and composition. Instead of being the invisible girl no one noticed, she was now known throughout Roosevelt High School as the student with the extraordinary musical gift. The changes in Maya's life had happened faster than she could have imagined. Within a week of her performance, Mr. Rodriguez had arranged for Maya to audition with Mrs. Elizabeth Harper, a retired professional pianist who taught advanced students in the city. Mrs. Harper had listened to Maya play for 15 minutes before agreeing to take her on as a student. "This girl has something special," Mrs. Harper had told Maya's parents. "With proper training, she could go very far in the music world." Maya now took piano lessons twice a week after school. Mrs. Harper was teaching her to read complex music, notation, understand advanced music theory, and develop the technical skills to match the natural talent she had inherited from her great-grandfather. The lessons were expensive, but Maya's parents had found ways to make sacrifices to pay for them. Maya's father had started working extra hours in the restaurant kitchen. Her mother had begun giving Chinese cooking lessons to American neighbors who wanted to learn authentic recipes. Even Maya contributed by tutoring younger students in math and English after school. The whole family was working together to support Maya's musical education. The results of their efforts were remarkable. Maya's playing had improved dramatically in just 3 months. She could now read sheet music fluently and play pieces by famous composers like Bach, Chopin, and Debussy. But more importantly, she had learned to compose her own music, creating pieces that told stories about her family's immigration experience and her own journey of self-discovery. At school, Maya's newfound confidence had affected every aspect of her life. Her grades had improved because she was no longer afraid to ask questions in class or participate in group discussions. She had made new friends among the music students and even some of the popular kids who had never noticed her before. But the most significant change was in Maya's relationship with her own identity. She was no longer ashamed of being the daughter of restaurant owners or embarrassed about her family's struggles as immigrants. Instead, she felt proud of their story and eager to share it through her music. Maya's compositions often incorporated traditional Chinese melodies that her grandmother taught her, blending them with Western classical techniques she learned from Mrs. Harper. This fusion created a unique musical style that reflected Maya's bicultural identity and honored both sides of her heritage. Word of Maya's talent had spread beyond Roosevelt High School. The local newspaper had written an article about her titled, "Hidden Talent Discovered Students' Performance Moves Entire School." The article included quotes from teachers and students describing how Maya's music had affected them emotionally. "I've never heard a teenager play with such maturity and depth," Principal Johnson was quoted as saying. "Maya Chen has reminded all of us that extraordinary talent can emerge from the most unexpected places." More importantly for Maya's future, several college admissions officers had read the newspaper article and contacted the school to learn more about this remarkable young musician. Maya was still only a junior, but she was already receiving information about scholarship opportunities at prestigious music schools. Maya's success had also brought unexpected changes to her family's restaurant. Customers who had read about Maya in the newspaper began coming to Golden Dragon specifically to meet the talented young pianist. Some asked if Maya would play background music during their dinners, and Maya's parents had surprised her by arranging for the old piano from Grandma Chen's apartment to be moved downstairs to the restaurant. Now, on Friday and Saturday evenings, Maya performed for restaurant customers while they ate. She played a mix of classical pieces, popular songs, and her own compositions. The performances had increased business significantly and had created a warm, unique atmosphere that set Golden Dragon apart from other restaurants in the neighborhood. But for Maya, the most meaningful part of performing in the restaurant was watching her grandmother's face as she played. Grandma Chen would sit at her favorite table near the piano with tears of joy in her eyes, listening to her great-granddaughter bring music back to life in their family. "Your great-grandfather is here with us when you play," Grandma Chen often told Maya. "I can feel his spirit in every note." Maya had also begun teaching piano lessons to younger students at the community center. She discovered that she enjoyed sharing her knowledge and helping other young people find their own musical voices. Teaching reminded Maya of how far she had come from the scared, uncertain girl who had once been afraid to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star in front of her classmates. One of Maya's students was a shy 8-year-old girl named Sophie, who reminded Maya of her former self. Sophie came from a family that could not afford expensive music lessons, so Maya taught her for free. Watching Sophie's confidence grow as she learned to play simple melodies reminded Maya daily of the transformative power of music. "Music saved me," Maya would tell Sophie during their lessons. "It helped me find who I really was inside. Maybe it can do the same thing for you." As Maya's junior year progressed, she began to think seriously about her future after high school. Mrs. Harper had suggested that Maya audition for several prestigious music conservatories. The idea of studying music at the college level seemed both exciting and intimidating. You have the talent to become a professional musician, Mrs. Harper told Maya during one of their lessons. But you also have something more rare. You have the ability to move people emotionally with your playing. That's a gift that can't be taught. Maya was grateful for the encouragement, but she also felt the weight of responsibility that came with her talent. She knew that her musical gift was not just her own achievement, but also the fulfillment of her great-grandfather's interrupted dreams and her family's hopes for a better future. Sometimes, late at night, after finishing her homework and practicing, Piano Maya would sit quietly in her grandmother's apartment and think about how drastically her life had changed. Just 1 year ago, she had been invisible, ordinary Maya, with no special talents or bright prospects. Now she was being recognized as a gifted musician with the potential for a professional career. But Maya had learned that talent alone was not enough. The real transformation had come from finding the courage to be authentic, to share her true self with the world, and to trust that who she was would be valuable to others. Maya's story had also inspired other students at Roosevelt High School to pursue their own hidden talents. Several classmates had approached her to say that watching her transformation had encouraged them to try out for the school play, join the debate team, or audition for the jazz band. "You showed us that it's never too late to discover who you really are," her friend Sarah had told her. "If Maya Chen can become a star, maybe any of us can find something special inside ourselves." As spring arrived and Maya began preparing for her senior year, she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought her to this point. The scared girl who had once sat in the back corner of the music room seemed like someone from another lifetime. Maya had learned that everyone carries hidden gifts inside themselves, waiting for the right moment and the right encouragement to emerge. Her great-grandfather's musical legacy had been dormant for 70 years before finding new life through her hands and heart. Now Maya was determined to use her gift not just for her own success, but to inspire others to discover their own hidden talents. She planned to continue teaching music to young people who might not otherwise have access to musical education. She wanted to compose pieces that would tell the stories of immigrant families like her own. She hoped to build bridges between different cultures through the universal language of music. Most importantly, Maya had learned that being extraordinary was not about being perfect or impressing others. It was about having the courage to share your authentic self with the world, even when that felt scary or uncertain. The invisible girl was gone forever, replaced by Maya Chen, musician, teacher, storyteller, and bridge builder. As she looked toward her future, Maya knew that her greatest performances were still ahead of her, and she was ready to play them with all the courage, authenticity, and love that her great-grandfather had passed down to her through an old piano and a family's enduring hope for new beginnings.